Hey guys, welcome back, I'm Jay. In this episode, we're going to look at Amazon Aurora. Amazon Aurora is a fully managed relational database engine that is compatible with MySQL and PostgreSQL. It helps you with time-consuming database administration tasks, such as hardware provisioning, database setups, and backups. It's up to 5 times faster than the standard MySQL, and 3 times faster than the standard PostgreSQL. Aurora database is highly scalable. The underlying storage can automatically scale up to 128 TB. Aurora database has built-in multi-AZ high availability. When you write data to the primary DB instance, data is synchronously replicated across availability zones to 6 storage nodes. You can create up to 15 read-only replicas in Aurora, using read replicas to offload some of the work for read-intensive applications. Aurora Serverless is an on-demand and auto-scaling option. It enables you to create database in the cloud, without managing any DB instance. With Aurora Serverless, you can simply create a database endpoint, optionally specify the desired capacity, and connect your applications. You only pay for the database capacity when the database is active. Each Aurora DB cluster can have multiple DB instances, and a cluster volume that manages the data for those DB instances. A cluster volume is a virtual database storage volume that spans multiple availability zones, with each availability zone having a copy of the DB cluster data. There are 2 types of DB instances make up a single master Aurora DB cluster, which are primary DB instance and Aurora replica. Primary DB instance supports read and write operations, and performs all of the data modifications to the cluster volume. Each Aurora DB cluster has 1 primary DB instance. Aurora replicas connect to the same storage volume as the primary DB instance, and support only read operations. Each Aurora DB cluster can have up to 15 Aurora replicas in addition to the primary DB instance. Aurora also support multi-master clusters. In a multi-master cluster, all DB instances have read and write capability. Each Aurora DB cluster has 1 primary DB instance. The primary DB instance supports read and write operations, and performs all of the data modifications to the cluster volume. Each Aurora DB cluster can have up to 15 Aurora replicas, in addition to the primary DB instance. Aurora replicas connect to the same storage volume as the primary DB instance, and support only read operations. Here is relationship between the cluster volume, primary DB instance, and Aurora replicas in a single master Aurora DB cluster. We have 1 primary DB instance and read replicas across multiple availability zones. A cluster volume spans multiple AZs, with each AZ having 2 data storage nodes. When data is written to the primary DB instance, Aurora synchronously replicates the data across availability zones to these storage nodes. You can place Aurora replicas in different availability zones to provide high availability. These read replicas offload read operations from the primary DB instance. If the primary DB instance becomes unavailable, Aurora can automatically failover to an Aurora replica. An Aurora replica is promoted to the primary instance. If there is no Aurora replicas, the cluster will be temporarily unavailable during the DB instance recovery. To provide high availability, AWS recommends that you create 1 or more replicas in different availability zones. They should be of the same DB instance class as the primary instance. Aurora cluster provides the separation of compute capacity and storage. An Aurora cluster with only 1 DB instance is still a cluster, because the underlying storage volume involves multiple storage nodes, distributed across multiple availability zones. Aurora Global Database is designed for globally distributed applications. Each Aurora Global Database spans multiple AWS regions, enabling low latency global reads, and disaster recovery from outages in an AWS region. An Aurora Global Database consists of 1 primary AWS region, and up to 5 read-only secondary AWS regions. Aurora automatically handles replicating all data and updates, from the primary region to each of the secondary regions, with typical latency of under a second. The cluster in the primary AWS region performs both read and write operations. The clusters in the secondary regions enable low latency reads. You can scale up the secondary clusters independently, by adding Aurora replicas to serve read-only workloads. A secondary cluster doesn't have a write or primary DB instance. This means that it can have up to 16 read-only replicas. For disaster recovery, you can promote a secondary cluster to allow full read and write operations. only the primary cluster can perform both read and write operations. Clients that perform write operations connect to the DB cluster endpoint of the primary cluster. Aurora Parallel Query is a feature of the Amazon Aurora database that provides faster analytical queries over your current data, without having to copy the data into a separate system. Aurora Parallel Query allows you to run real-time data analytics queries on fresh data. Parallel Query takes advantage of Aurora's unique architecture to push down and parallelize query processing across thousands of CPUs in the Aurora storage layer. By decoupling the database engine from the storage subsystem, the query gains a large amount of computing power, and it needs to transfer fewer data over the network. In the meantime, the Aurora database instance can continue serving transactions with much less interruption. You can run transactional and analytical workloads alongside each other in the same Aurora database, while maintaining high performance. Aurora Machine Learning enables you to add ML-based predictions to applications via the SQL queries. Aurora ML provides simple, optimized, and secure integration between Aurora and AWS ML services. Aurora ML directly integrates with Amazon SageMaker and Comprehend. SageMaker is a fully managed machine learning service that enables you to build and deploy ML models quickly. Comprehend is a natural language processing service that uses machine learning to find insights and relationships in text. When you run an ML query, Aurora uses SageMaker for a wide variety of ML algorithms, or Comprehend for sentiment analysis. Aurora ML is suitable for low latency, real-time use cases, such as fraud detection, ad targeting, and product recommendations. For example, you can build product recommendation systems by writing SQL queries in Aurora that pass customer profile, shopping history, and product catalog data to a SageMaker model, and get product recommendations returned as query results. You can add ML-based predictions to your existing database applications. You don't need to build custom integrations. You can embed machine learning processing directly into your SQL query as calls to stored functions. ML integration is a fast way to enable ML services to work with transactional data. You don't have to move the data out of the database to perform the machine learning operations. You don't have to convert or re-import the results of the machine learning operations to use them in your database application. Aurora Serverless is an on-demand, auto-scaling configuration for Amazon Aurora. Aurora Serverless DB Cluster can automatically start up, shut down, and scale up or down its compute capacity. It enables you to run your database in the cloud without managing any database instance. It's a simple, cost-effective option for infrequent, intermittent, or unpredictable workloads. Aurora Serverless removes operational tasks for managing database capacity. Instead of provisioning and managing database servers, Aurora Serverless allows you to simply create a database endpoint and specify Aurora capacity units or ACUs. Each ACU is a combination of processing and memory capacity. You can specify the maximum and minimum ACU that the DB cluster can scale up or down. Based on your settings, Aurora Serverless automatically creates scaling rules for thresholds of CPU utilization, connections, and available memory. Aurora Serverless automatically scales the database storage from 10 GB to 128 TB, which is the same as storage scaling in a standard Aurora DB cluster. With Serverless, you only pay a per second rate for the database capacity used when the database is active. In this episode, we've learned Amazon Aurora. Aurora is a fully managed relational database engine that is compatible with MySQL and PostgreSQL. It's up to 5 times faster than the standard MySQL, and 3 times faster than the standard PostgreSQL. Aurora database is highly scalable. The underlying storage can automatically scale up to 128 TB. Aurora comes with built-in multi-AZ. When data is written to the primary DB instance, Aurora synchronously replicates the data across availability zones to 6 storage nodes. You can create up to 15 read-only replicas in Aurora. You can offload some of the work for read-intensive applications by using the reader replicas. Aurora Global Database is designed for globally distributed applications. Each Aurora Global Database spans multiple AWS regions, enabling low-latency global reads and disaster recovery from outages in an AWS region. Aurora Parallel Query provides faster analytical queries over your current data, without having to copy the data into a separate system. Aurora Machine Learning integrates with Amazon SageMaker and Comprehend. Aurora ML enables you to add ML-based predictions to applications via the SQL queries. Aurora Serverless is an on-demand, Auto-scaling configuration for Amazon Aurora. Aurora Serverless DB cluster can automatically start up, shut down, and scale up or down its compute capacity. Okay, that's all for Amazon Aurora. Thanks for watching and see you in the next episode.
Hope you've enjoyed watching this episode. If you liked the video, please help us and hit the like button. If you want to watch more tutorials, please subscribe to the Cloudemy TV channel. Make sure to turn on the notification and stay tuned. At Cloudemy, we're passionate about cloud and AI technology. Please share your feedback and thoughts in the comments below. Feel free to let us know what topics you'd like to watch. Happy watching and happy learning.